Yeah, well, that's the staples, and we'll continue to keep our eye on the market as we move toward that 4 p.m. mark. Let's join Peter McGuire from XM to see what he's watching. Peter, welcome. Look, most people we spoke to earlier, Scuddy, were saying that in the wake of Jay Powell yesterday, there's been a real shift in expectations going forward. How did you read his commentary regarding inflation, regarding the taper?
Absolutely. Well, good afternoon, Nadine, and hello, David. Yeah, look, I think they've got to manage that inflation story. It's been front page across all the Fed and their mindset over the last matter of months, Nadine. So it doesn't surprise us. And the realisation is, I think that 22 could move a little bit quicker than what we expected. So, yeah, pull the taper off, try and contain inflation, and it really is galloping away, as we've seen across Eurozone and US. So those high energy costs, high everything, and that really is causing great concern. But the other side, of course, is possibilities as far as slower growth if we see this ratchet up as far as the COVID story or the continuation of it over the winter period in the Northern Hemisphere.
Pete, do you expect to see increased volatility based on what we're seeing in recent days? You talked about the taper, you talked about Omicron, so much uncertainty out there at the moment, and we're coming into the festive season when, of course, a lot of people are going to put their feet up.
Absolutely, David. Yeah, I think it's been volatile over the last couple of weeks. It's been incredible when you're looking at the big markets as far as US dollar. Have a look what's happened as far as equities. They've had quite a not a bad little pullback. Dollar's really come under some firepower here, our dollar. Crude market has been incredibly volatile. Swings of the best part of probably 20% in the last 2 weeks, down 13% in one trading session. So if that's not a demonstration as far as volatility, I don't know what is. And the last 2 weeks have been outstanding, and this week's looking pretty good as well for a trader.
Peter, I know that you know the oil markets very well. We have the street appearing to be split as to whether or not OPEC Plus will pause its strategy of bringing on more capacity, that 400 barrels per day. Where are you sort of anticipating things are going to go?
Well, I think earlier in the week, Nadine, I was thinking that it probably maybe sit on their hands, which I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm still of that mindset, but it seems to be that's gone from about an 80% bias to possibly 65% at the moment, and that's my thoughts. The oil market has been, it's demonstrated now. We've got Brent 70.5, NYMEX crude sitting at around about 67.5. So it's really taken a big battering since Friday, and that could be a little bit of a wake-up call from a demand destruction standpoint and what the overall picture is as far as consumption leading into that December period and January for the Northern Hemisphere. So that's why I think that OPEC might just have a little bit of a breather, but who's to know?
Technically speaking, when it comes to the crude price, have we broken down quite substantially? Because we're talking about a bear market starting to go forward, so down 20% from the highs. How's it looking technically? Is it already done, or is it getting very vulnerable at this stage?
I think it's vulnerable, David. I don't know how much further it can go up or down in the short term, because what we're seeing is quite significant moves over very short periods, and that really creates a sense of unknown, and market sentiment is very much, I think traders are taking just little bites out of the apple when they see an opportunity, and they can pick up $1 or $2 in a trading session. So there's that side of it. As far as where we are by Christmas, I just want to get a general feel what's happening in Eurozone, where we're going with this new variant, and the overall feel as far as the equity markets and the overall economic health across that Northern Hemisphere, because that's where we're all looking at. So that creates, I think, from a trading perspective, a little bit of an unknown leading into Christmas.
Okay, now we've got data tonight, don't we? We've got global PMIs coming out. We have the ADP report ahead of the non-farm payroll report. We still have Powell. We still have Yellen. I mean, there are still a lot of risks out there, even as we watch E-mini futures looking pretty positive at this stage of the game.
Yeah, I absolutely, and that's no shortage as far as data being dropped, Nadine. And what we saw last night was a fairly healthy sell-off as far as US equities, but I'm looking across Asia today, and it's relatively green. The only market I'm concerned about really is the Philippines. So everything else is booming reasonably okay, and they've shrugged off that sell-off as far as what they experienced this morning in New York. So if that momentum changes and that mood and the sentiment change over the next couple of days, and taking on board all of those data drops, maybe it's a time to, possibly look at a little bit more blue sky over the next couple of sessions.
Pete, is the Aussie dollar looking constructive at the moment? It obviously fell to 1 year lows overnight, but then bounced quite substantially. It's had a lot thrown at it. How do you see it?
Yeah. David, it's been an almighty trade. It's been extraordinary from a trade of 71.5. So, US dollars come under pressure. The Aussie, I think that it's probably been the standout for the last quarter as far as how to make a buck. So, really offering great opportunities. Could be a little bit further softness from here. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not sure, but I think it'll bounce. But let's keep a close eye as far as that US dollar index. We're sitting under that 96 handle now. We were at 97 earlier in the week, or just under. So that's coming under pressure as well. So there's a lot of big themes happening at once, and that really is what a trade is after.
Okay, so if we can make it to the end of the week, Peter, with the COVID variant, with everything out there, getting to that non-farm payroll report, it would be extraordinary if we saw markets bounce in this environment, but, it feels as if anything is possible, correct?
Well, exactly. You saw that big sell-off this morning, or relatively big, and you've seen the mood and the sentiment we had. Monday night was relatively, it was quite a nice night. US equities, they bounced to the upside. Last night they bounced off. So I wouldn't be surprised. It's going to be a whipsawing week, Nadine, and it's hard to find a floor and hard to find a peak. You might have these big trading ranges where the Dow trades 500 points a session. So that's fantastic for traders because all they're after is movement, and there's no shortage of that at the moment. The Nasdaq's looking like it's a nice opportunity to possibly go long for a couple of 100 points. So, all of that's offering, again, that's what traders do. They sit in front of a screen for 24 hours a day and they look for opportunity.